think we should all introduce ourselves. Youngest to oldest.
Youngest to oldest.
Yeah, why
What the
not?
heck?
Hey, start something new. Yeah.
Well, my name's Patrick Jr. I'm this man's son. That's my uncle. And we're here to
Other way.
talk.
No, I'm Jason Wilson. I would be Dewey's uncle and Patrick's brother. Um, I'm 40 years old, so I align with the millennials or zillennials, a little subset of that, which is those that were kind of analog and digital. Uh, so we'll go into all that, but yeah, that's kind of me.
All right, I'm Patrick Sr., Patrick Dawson Sr. We are ancestries of Gus Dawson Sr. I'm I guess, no, baby boomer, right on the cuff of baby boomer. So I came up of time of reel to reel and um, no cell phones, no internet, dial up, things of that nature. The purpose of this show, give viewpoints on how everybody views, how the different ages and generations view what's going on in the world or just in general.
And our name is Generational Divide.
Yes.
Unless you guys have a
Yeah.
better idea in the comments, let us know.
I thought generational diversity would be even better.
We can ask the comments, see what they say.
Yeah, yeah. Generational divide or generational diversity.
But I think in today's episode we're just gonna be talking about like our first jobs and I guess maybe a little bit more about ourselves.
Okay, I'll start it off. I think it was one of my first jobs. I was thinking about when I was at work the other day. Um, Man, I worked selling Cutco knives was one of my first jobs. But one of my very, very, very first jobs was being a jitney driver for my dad and being
A what?
a jitney driver, a illegal taxi service is what is commonly known as. Me growing up, it's called a jitney. And bootlegging was my first unofficial job. Restocking liquor at the age of 14 and 15 years old and selling liquor was my very first job.
How do you think that affected you? Or your outlook?
It affected me in the sense that it helped me to become more streetwise, street knowledge. My dad, our me and Jason's dad were very into the streets, and he was a quote unquote hustler, and he helped to form that aspect of my life. And then my mother was a very church going woman, still is, and so she formed the other half. So I feel like I had the extremes of both worlds, and I mean the extremes of both worlds. So it shaped who I am and helped me to become who I am. Uh, Thus, he wanted to show us all various types of people that are in the streets, and if we can deal with them as a child, we can deal with them as we become adults, and we can see the things that they're up to or what they're trying to get over on or whatever it may be. So uh, it had a profound effect on who I am as a person.
Well, funny enough, I began my first job. I wouldn't say doing anything fun like Patrick had, but mine was sort of illegal too. um,
Okay.
I I basically was like a pizza creator, a cook sort of deal for
Mm.
Valentino's.
Okay.
And I was 13 at the time, and I lied to them and told them I was 16, uh,
Hmm.
just so I could, make a paycheck. And I did. It worked. I don't know if it was just they're more rigorous with how they do the background checks and stuff now, but I was on. I want to say I worked for at least 2 months before they kind of caught on, and then I was asked to provide a birth certificate. So that was a short job, but it was my first job. It was a lot of
Hmm.
fun. Um, one of my buddy, I'm guessing, yeah, pretty much one of my good friends at the time. He was the manager of the store, or the restaurant, and so that's probably how I got in, was through that. But it was a lot of fun. Taught me the value of earning my own money. I think it really set me on that course for um, just working hard and realizing that I could make something of myself, because the environment that I was in was completely opposite. Um, Government assistance, what have you done for me lately, sort of mentalities, stuff like that. So it really broke me out of that, and showed me that I really can make my own path. So yeah, that was kind of my first job.
How did it affect you?
As far as the job, or
No, how does it affect your life? I'm sorry. Like, as far as like when you wanted to do after that, and like maybe it made you say, okay, well, next time I get a job, I got to do it right.
yeah, well, it definitely showed me that the service industry really isn't for me.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
it did show me that. That hence why I'm probably in technology now. Um, and then so I did go from there, and I segued to doing telemarketing, which was more, computers, phone stuff. I
hmm
hated that too. Um, but as with all of us, I'm sure these little jobs just kind of crafted me into deciding what I wanted to be. So I think that first job was definitely a catalyst to showing me that while there's nothing wrong with being a blue collared worker, and those people, we need those people, and they're instrumental to the success of pretty much everything in our country. I just knew that wasn't the right path for me. So it's weird to get that insight at 13 years old, but like I had all these little things that sprinkled throughout my life that kind of, while I was young, that year I could write a book about the first time I turned 13 years old and what happened in that entire year. We're talking losing virginity, just everything, the gamut. So I'm sure we'll get into that eventually with one of these
Yeah,
segments.
yeah,
But
yes,
yeah,
yes.
that year was insane for me, 13
Mm.
and 14. So yeah, but that's kind of my first job experience. How about you, Dewey?
I think for me, uh, I definitely grew up in different circumstances than both of you in terms of like your surroundings and like I guess what you're allowed to do. I feel like it was a little more stricter when I was growing up because there's more laws and all of that put in place to kind of make sure that people aren't underage to work. But I guess my
Hmm.
first like kind of job was like mowing lawns or just like our so my mom has a condo and then I would just mow the lawns at the condo and then she would make me write up this basically just like a invoice for the neighbors. It was just like a $20 invoice and it was like what I did. And then I'd have them sign it and then they just give me the $20. And she kind of just wanted me to, I guess, start having that sense of like you gotta keep track of like how much money you're making and all of that because in the future it's gonna be important for like taxes and stuff. But then I guess my first real job was at McDonald's when I turned, well, no, not when I turned 16. I was like 16 and a half. I started in, I think it was like November or something, and then I quit in February. I liked the people I worked with, but I didn't enjoy the management or like the scheduling or anything like that. And then after that, I moved over to Office Max, which I enjoyed a lot because I'm somewhat of a tech person and I like learning about new things in terms of technology and all that stuff. And I think those two jobs, well, all my jobs have really led me to how I present myself now in terms of now I do streaming and I work at an accounting place. So it's like two completely opposite sides of the coin where when I work at the accounting firm, I'm mostly just like not seen by anybody. I'm just in the back end answering phone calls or answering emails, and when I'm streaming, I'm in the forefront, and I'm able to, like give my personality to other people. And I feel like I take a lot of what I learned from growing up and my dad and all the stories he's told me to like kind of just portray myself in the best way possible and to make it to where I'm a warm and inviting person so that people aren't like put off by how I am. Because I feel like when I was younger, a lot of people had like preconceived notions of me just by like the way I looked. And then once they got to know me, they're like, "Oh, you're not like anything that I thought you were."
How'd you
That's
look?
interesting.
I don't know. I just felt like I looked like me.
Okay.
Yeah. I kind of circle back as far as like the field that I'm in now. I guess I'm a caregiver. My mom was a caregiver. Used to she was a barber beautician, and then she cleaned people's houses all the time. And her goal for us siblings were to get off of welfare. Because when I came along, she wasn't on welfare, but when she was with Dennis, the oldest brother, who is 13 years older than I am, she was on and off welfare. And I remember her saying that she wanted to get off of welfare. So she did everything possible to get off welfare. But she was a caregiver. And I can see that with quote unquote all of her husbands that she had. Um, and I see how she is now when she has no one to care for her. So she feels like she's not really depressed, but she just has really nothing to do. Um, so I try to keep her motivated, not respect. But I'm a people person. I already know that. I found that out once I got into the field that I work in now. And even when I was with Daddy and working doing that illegal activity, it was fun. It was amazing. I've never had so much fun in my life. Having that responsibility of going to restock, interacting with people much older than I am on a regular basis, and people that are 21, 18, 80, whatever. So I learned that. But once I got into the medical field, it kind of honed those skills on how to talk to everybody, and no matter what age they are, and feeling comfortable enough to do it. Feel comfortable enough to go up to someone and say something nice. Uh, I try to rarely say anything negative to someone because I know how that can hurt someone. So I'm always trying to say something positive to somebody every single day. If it's their shoes that look nice, their jacket look nice, something. I always try to make someone feel special every day. So I think from the first job up until where I'm at now, that's what kind of helped me to get that way.
I definitely feel like I've taken that from you in terms of like me wanting to be sort of a positive light in terms of like
Mhm.
people's days, and because I know how sensitive I can be sometimes and how words can affect me and
Mhm.
how I mull over the words like for longer than I should, and I try not to be that type of person to other people. I don't want to be that source of negativity. Plus, it kind of comes back to you eventually. So I just try and stay positive.
Yeah, that's I feel that because I always struggle with that. Thinking too much about something is kind of one of my MOs. Um, I'm notorious about that. I'll have to lean on my wife, and she's like, "Jason, you're doing it again. Don't think so hard on it."
Mhm.
And then another thing that I've grown to become better at is not expecting the worst of people, right? Like so instantly going to the negative part. Maybe something just happened and stuff just happens sometimes and not necessarily thinking that that person had ill intentions or they did something for a certain way. Maybe it just worked out that way. So yeah, no, I work on that too, Dewey, as far as like not trying to think too deep on things. Um, and then likewise, not trying to be that source of that for another person.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I think that's good stuff. So,
The other thing I try to do, and I've shared this with people that I work with, I when I walk into a patient's room, sometimes because I work in a hospital and predominantly the people that I walk that I interact with are not my color, so to speak. I want to dispel the myth of what people think about me. Because when people, I walk in the room, I'm a 6'2", 200 something pound, bald black man. And most of the people I deal with are geriatric, elderly, 70, 80, 90 years old. So they look at me like, wow, okay, who is this? And so when I come in the room, I want my personality to override what they see. I want them to see exactly who I am, and I want to put them at ease. And within a couple of hours of being at work, they're like, okay, they'll tell the nurse, and I'll hear them say, he's a really nice guy. Like, oh, and the nurse will confirm it. So I just want to dispel what media, whatever, puts out there about us as black men. I want to dispel. I want to do at every opportunity that I can. That's what I want to do. I want to be a positive light to everybody. Especially in the hospital because they're down, they're depressed, and I try to tell them, look, this too will pass. I promise you, it'll get better. Just keep going. So,
And I
yeah.
yeah, I get, and that's the world we live in, but that's so frustrating to me that people of color have to do that. They have to basically fight back against stereotypes that were put on them by the people that they're trying to show that the stereotypes aren't
Mm,
true about, right?
yeah.
Like, I don't want to go on a soapbox, but that's the world we live in. You have to do that,
Yes.
especially with like the patients and the people that you provide care for. But that is so frustrating to live in a world where you have to do that. Um, and I
Yeah.
think with like Dewey's generation and the younger ones, um, it's not like that. I don't know. Maybe you have more thoughts about that, Dewey, as far as like that initial impression. I would say like the stereotypes aren't as extreme as what they are for, say, someone that's in an older generation.
think
That
for
makes sense.
my generation, it's more like I feel like most people have seen other races. Well, at least where I grew up, everybody's seen pretty much every race. So it's not like they're coming in with preconceived notions of what this person might be or what they will do because they've had interactions with plenty of different types of people, regardless of if they're white, black, or Asian or anything like that. And I feel like most people in my generation are able to see past that and just see people for who they are, which is fairly refreshing because I know that with a lot of older generations, like it's crazy, especially on like Facebook, what some people are posting and
Oh yeah. And the sad thing about that, a lot of what people are saying is something that they believe their whole life, and it's something that
Yeah.
was taught to them at home. And I'm a firm believer things are taught at home. I mean, yes, your environment affects you, but a lot of who we are comes from how you were brought up, and you can change what you were taught. Because I was taught some things growing up that I chose not to believe. I mean, but I have this saying: in order to understand the beast, you must understand the nature of the beast. So, and I'll use that analogy. I'll take my mother, for instance. She raised me to be prejudiced. She raised me to not like white people. But I understand why. Because she came from the 30s, right after the Depression. She was one of 20 kids, and her dad grandfather used to not, she would go to work for other people and he would get paid. Kids would go work on different farms in Mississippi, and that's how they made the money. He had all these kids, and he put them to work at an early age for other people. Rather, whether it was, I don't know if it was picking cotton. I don't know. I'm not sure. It may have been, but doing whatever work for other people, and then they would pay him at the end of the day, at the end of the week, whatever. So she grew up with that. I don't want to do this, and then when she left Mississippi, she came to Omaha in '51, and she started working, trying to do her best, going to barber school, working for other people, doing what she did because she didn't have an education. And so I understand why she feels that way and why she felt that way. But then I had Daddy on the other hand, who was the total opposite of that. You know, he was. We all know what he's like, and what we are now. But the one thing Daddy did like, he didn't like white men, which I understand that too. So I had to figure out where my loyalty lied. My mom, did I want to be like her and carry on those values, or did I want to be like my dad, be like Daddy? I'm like, let me decide on what I want to do. Let me take the best part of both of them and become the best person I can be. And it, to me, it kind of, I don't know, go back to Martin Luther King, judge a person by their character, not by their color. I don't, if I'm judging a person, a whole race of people by a couple, then I'm doing the same thing that they're doing to me, and that's not right. So I look at everybody individually. I give everybody an opportunity to, you know, hang themselves, so to speak, or just lose my trust. I trust everybody initially until you give me a reason not to trust you. And I just, that's just the faith I have in people. I love people because I'm a human being, and that's what I would want someone to do that for me.
Yeah, I have the same exact mentality. Like, I've always gone through life where I'll trust you completely until you do something that makes me not trust you anymore. And then even then, I'll still give you another chance because I know people make
Mhm.
mistakes and we're not perfect. It's gonna happen. But like for
Mhm.
instance, there was this one guy that I met back in it was like April, or it was like the beginning of summertime of 2021, and he was like another streamer, or he was wanting to be a streamer, and then like we became close friends. We were playing games all the time together, and then his girlfriend and my girlfriend started talking and they became friends, and then like after the summer was over, I just kept hearing things from his girlfriend talking about like how he was like cheating on her and
Mhm.
like doing things like that, and I'm like, well, lying, and I'm like, yeah, I know he lies because he just like blatantly lies all the time, and I'm like, well, it's not that big of a deal because it's not anything big. It's just like him, I'm assuming, just trying to big himself up. And after a while, I was just like, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm not gonna associate myself with someone who would disrespect their person that they're supposed to be in love with. And it's like, I how can I trust you if you can't like take care of the one person who cares about you? And it's like, what does that mean for me?
Yeah.
So then I just distanced myself from him, and I feel like my life's gotten a lot better since then.
Yeah. I think when you you trust somebody and then they lose your trust, then you can like them or trust them up to a certain point, and you can like them from a distance. I have friends like that too. I have people that are in my life that I'm like, okay, I can hang around you, I can do stuff with you, but I know what I can and can't do with you. You know, there's a saying, I can't remember how it goes, but it says trust is. I remember. I'll think of it. Anyway, Jason, go ahead.
Yeah, no. No, I'm at this place in my life right now where uh my circle is getting smaller. And I think that's just due to the nature of having kids, and they're young and they got their activities and stuff. You don't get to catch up with your buddies and stuff like that. I think about when I was like in college, my circle was huge. Like I
Mhm.
had a core, there's about 10 of us. And now it's like kind of dropped down to where I have like two or three core friends that I could, like, if I needed to be bailed out of jail, who would I call? That's not my wife.
Mhm.
I probably wouldn't call her anyways because I don't want to deal with that. But no, yeah, I have I have like two people that I would say are still ride or die sort of
Mhm.
friends. And I felt that. That used to bother me a lot. Like and it's not so much a reflection on me. It's just that's life. That's how it goes. Like your circle gets smaller. And
Mhm.
some of what you guys would say as far as people showing you who they are. Um, letting them speak. That's, you got to believe people when they show you who they are. Because I used to
Oh
make,
yeah.
you know what I mean? We make
Oh
these
yeah.
make these arguments against what they're
Excuses.
showing. Yeah, excuses.
Ex-
And
yes.
so aside from just not being able to connect, but truly seeing who people are, that's why my circle's gotten smaller too. And I feel like as I'm getting older, it's easier for me to discern through the bullshit and
Hmm.
like really see what is true and what is valuable. And also with family, like getting older, I'm starting to see the importance of family. Like
Mm.
it's really interesting, just how it took me so long to get to that place. I always thought that my closest relationships are my friends, but now
Hmm.
actually seeing my own children and my relationship through them, and then like my relationship with you guys, like
Hmm.
what 4 or 5 years ago, we probably had never done nothing like this, but because like we're all getting to that place where we, and maybe you've already been there, Patrick, but like the understanding of the importance of family, losing people along the way. It just,
Yep.
yeah. I don't know how I got to here, but yeah, that kind
Oh,
of
it's
just,
okay. Yeah.
yeah, what you guys are saying definitely brought, that's kind of what, so that's what I'm working on in my life right now. Um, but I also understand to have relationships, you have to put the work in. It is a two-way street. So if you're, and that goes with family too. So
Yep.
that's kind of
Yep.
where I'm at right now. I don't want my circle to get any bigger, but I definitely want to retain what I got, and I want those to be more meaningful.
Yep. And I remember having a conversation with you about when you mentioned about the two-way street, putting in the work. It is, and sometimes it's a one-way street, and sometimes you have to put in something just to get something out of it, which is fine. If that's what you want to do, you can do. Um, but yeah, family is so important, so important. Um, Starting with your kids, and then your parents, and then your kids, and stuff like that. That's very very important. That's why I'm blessed to have my mother here taking care of her. I have every day with her. That's something that you know my other siblings don't have. They have things of her and that remind them of her, but I actually have her here, and so I think that's very, very important. And I'm blessed to be in a position where I can take care of her, where I think the good Lord steered me towards the medical field. I remember the first time someone even mentioned it to me. You ought to get in the medical field, and they were talking more on the lines of is financial security. You never have to worry about getting laid off. You never have to worry about, no matter what the economy is like, you will always have a job, no matter what. I said, that's interesting. And when I got in it, I was like, wow, I really like this. And I've been where I'm at, I mean, doing what I'm doing for 33 years this year. Yeah. So, and I love it. I mean, I can honestly say there may be a handful of days where I said, I don't want to go to work. A handful of days.
Yeah.
And I've worked, when I was in Minnesota, I worked two different facilities, 10 years one, 20 years the next one. So that's pretty much what I did when I was there, trying to raise my two kids.
How about you? How about you, Dewey? It's like your circle's got to still be pretty, not to assume, but I'm sure you got like a lot of core friends or acquaintances and stuff that
I'd
maybe
say I have
maybe you're starting to
more.
get that place.
I say I have more acquaintances than anything. I feel like after high school, it's kind of like I only have maybe 2 or 3 people that I would like die for, so to
Hmm.
speak, and the rest of them are kind of just like people that I've met along the way, and I haven't really built a connection like that with them yet. But I would say since I am still very young and I'm trying to pursue a career in entertainment and all of that, I feel like my circle's just starting to expand now as I'm meeting more people and talking to more people. But I feel like also when I was younger, I was always like not thinking about family at all because I was always around them. And it's like, I want something else right now. And it's like, I want
Hmm.
friends because I feel like when I was growing up, I didn't really have any friends, especially in high school. So my first 2 years of high school were kind of like, well, my first year was fine, but my second year was probably the worst year I've ever had in my life. I was like
Mm.
extremely depressed all the time. I didn't want to do anything. I I tried to hang out with people and friends, but I would never get invited to anything. And then I was just like, I can't do this anymore. So then I decided, since my dad moved, so my mom moved in 2014 to a place called Big Lake, and then my dad moved to Monticello, which is like a 10-minute drive away from each other. And then since he moved there in 2016, I was like, I think I'm just gonna switch schools to see how it's like, because I wasn't enjoying myself and I couldn't really focus on school at my original school. And then I feel like once I made that change, I I started to discover really who I was and what I wanted to be, and like how I wanted to treat other people more, because it was kind of like a fresh start and nobody really knew me. And of course, when nobody knows you, they all want to get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of nice in that way. And then, yeah, I just met a couple people that I'm still close with now from that new school. And then my first ever serious relationship came from that school, which also taught me a lot about myself.
I remember that. Yep. It was very interesting watching you grow, watching you find yourself and asking questions, and um, maybe later on we'll get into that. You asked me a profound question one time, and I was like, wow, okay. And I was blessed to be able to come up with an answer for you for that particular question that you asked. And so I was
I
like,
don't even
okay,
remember what I asked you.
you asked me why aren't I good enough?
Oh,
You remember that question?
nope, because I don't feel that way no more.
I know that. I know,
That's a
but
good thing.
I know exactly where we were, exactly what was going on when it happened. I was in the Four Season porch watching TV, and you sat down next to me, and you said, why aren't I good enough?"
It was
And
probably
then
after
we
a
just had a
series of
conversation.
rejections.
Yes. Well, yeah, it was the senior girl that I think you liked.
Oh, yeah, that was like when I first moved.
Yeah, yeah. But that was we'll talk about it later. So yeah, it was. I remember some poignant moments that happened between you and I uh, when we moved to Monticello. And I remember when I first met Jason.
Oh God.
Yeah. That was quite interesting.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, I
Jason was a
remember
little
that.
cocky when we first met.
Still am, but
A
I
little more humble.
I didn't have yeah, I didn't have the experience or the wisdom to back some of the cockiness up. I
Oh
still
no way.
no, I was so those thoughts you have in like when you're laying in bed, your brain's about to shut off, and then
Hmm.
your brain's like, "Oh, you're about to go to sleep? No, you ain't. Let's think about that
Yep.
odd ass thing you did 5 years ago." And you
Hmm.
instantly lay in bed and you start sweating. You're like, "Oh crap." That
Yep.
I had one of those moments meeting my family. And I'm sure we'll go into that because yeah, there's quite a bit of funnels and journeys we can take.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was a huge part of my life. Still is to this day is meeting all you guys, meeting dad.
Yep.
It's funny how influential father is. Um,
Oof.
and I mean, I don't have the point of reference of not having a mother in my life and just being with my father. Maybe it works vice versa, but uh, just to like, because I had no idea who I was, where I was at, and meeting him created that foundation for me that's really carried me throughout my whole life. Just that short
Hmm.
span that I had with him. So yeah,
Yeah. Your cockiness came from him.
I believe it.
Genetically.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. It's. I remember the day that Dewey said, "Dad, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I get what you're saying with what we have, and it's this innate ability to, and it's not just. It is with women. Don't get me wrong. It is, but it's with people. It's how Daddy always interacted with people, and how I watched him. I would just sit and just in awe and just watch how he talked to people, whether they were rude, whether they were polite, whether they were cute, whether they were ugly, whatever they were. He knew how to deal with them. I called him a chameleon. I always felt as if you could take Daddy to the White House, or you could take him to Skid Row. He'll blend in anywhere you take him. And that was something that was always profound to me. I was like, that's what I want to be like. I want to be able to, and not do it to get over, but to do it to make people feel comfortable and at ease. And that's what he did. He was always like that until you got on his bad side.
Yeah.
And I've seen that.
Yeah.
Unless
Jason seen it.
you're a 2-year-old Dewey.
Yes, Dewey was terrified of Daddy. He used to cling to me. I would like go to him like he was like no, no, because you know how his voice was so
Yeah.
strong,
Yeah.
powerful voice, and that
Yeah.
scared the mess out of Dewey.
He's as loud
Jada
as
didn't
you
have
want.
any. Yes, Jada didn't have a problem with it, but Dewey he was just scared of it.
I guess recently for me, I'm now 3 days sober from smoking marijuana.
Oh
From
wow!
being I don't know what you'd call it, but a daily smoker, I guess, for the past 4 years.
Mhm.
And the most recent break I took was back in October, and that was like a month long. And it really showed me how different I am from like when I do smoke every day to when I'm like sober all the time. I feel like when I'm sober, I'm more productive, and in terms of like I get bored a lot. When I get bored, I try and look for things to do, but when I'm smoking weed, I feel like I never got bored. And
Mm.
during that month-long sobriety, I definitely got the most things accomplished that I wanted to do because I was going to the gym almost every day. I was streaming on YouTube, which I've been doing because I feel like that's just easy for me to do now. But I was also making videos every day for my channel. And that's when I saw like the most growth for my channel because I think I gained like 300 subscribers
Mhm.
in that 1 month or something like that, just from constantly putting in effort. And then once I stopped and I just went back to smoking, it just all just flattened out. nothing
Mm.
nothing really progressed in my life, and I kind of felt, I don't know, complacent, but like in the moment I was content because I didn't feel the need to do anything more. I was like, my life's
Mhm.
good now. But when I'm not smoking, I can really visualize like what I want to do and where I want to be. And like, I guess, so I was talking to Gabby yesterday. Gabby's my girlfriend, for everybody that doesn't know. I was talking to her yesterday about how like, um, so whenever I'm smoking, it's just the world's all good, nothing's wrong, like nothing could bother me. But when I'm sober, I have to face all of my feelings and everything. And I kind of just like look back to so back in 2020 was my first major breakup with my first relationship. And that was another period of time where I took a break from smoking because I wanted to feel all of the emotions, because I knew I was just gonna, if I ended up smoking through that whole period, I wouldn't have evolved or changed who I was. So I decided for myself that I didn't want to suppress my emotions. I wanted to feel everything. And it was a very hard time in my life. And I was sad all the time. I was crying all the time. But I feel like it built me up into who I am today. And I guess kind of instilled in me like a want and a hunger for more, and to like become exactly who I want to be, because I feel like I can visualize it a lot more when I'm not smoking, because I can
Mhm.
put things into motion a lot easier.
Mm.
But yeah, I guess that's a good thing in my life right now. Even though I'm going through withdrawals and it's a little lackluster in
That's-
energy and everything, but I know eventually I'm gonna be back to feeling good and being energized with life and not having to rely on substances to feel good about being alive.
Mm,
Yeah, congrats.
yep.
Yeah, I think that's great, that you're um taking control um and wanting to live your life how you want to live it, right? Like you're not letting that vice control you. And I don't know, I may get that from dad. Cuz I like to have fun and partake in things. Um but I don't like it controlling me, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
uh that's something that everyone else in my family on my mother's side deals with, is those addictions and stuff like that. And I think about like how I didn't have to deal with that. And I think dad, maybe genetically, just for some reason, or maybe it's the grace of God, I don't know. But that's not something I've had to deal with. So I can go and dabble and have fun and do things, but cut it off. And I know, as far as like not smoking herb and stuff, um I think it's honestly it's harder times for some people, maybe alcohol, because it is so short temporary as far as the high. It doesn't affect you as greatly as being drunk on alcohol does. um it just seems like you can be as productive when you're working on that as opposed to being drunk. So
Mm-hmm.
I could see how, like, it's a part of your everyday, just something you do every day, like drinking coffee, right? I need to smoke a bowl, or I need to do something to get my day started. So I totally understand that. And I think if that's something that you've recognized that you need to just put on the back burner for a while, or maybe this is a forever thing. I think that's great that um, you're.
It could never be a forever thing.
I didn't want to assume, but
Mm-hmm.
no, because it's good to take those breaks and clear your mind. And then maybe you'll go another month or two where you are smoking, and then you'll take another extended break. And I think that's totally functional and normal to do something like that. But there would be times where, like, I was smoking 3 to 4 times a day back in when I was a little bit younger, and it just, yeah, you just can't function like that. So
Mm-hmm.
Like my ultimate goal for this is, so since I'm going to be turning 23, I've been saying it's my goat year, so I got to step up my
Yep.
game.
Yep. Yep.
And I was like, I don't want to be on substances when I'm 23. When I'm about to turn 24, I want to look the best I've ever looked. I want to accomplish the most things I've ever accomplished. I want to do everything I possibly can to set myself up for success in the future. I don't want to be in the same place in the next 3 years. I want to
Mm-hmm.
be constantly improving, upgrading, not just like my surroundings, but like the people I surround myself with, the quality of my life, just like everything, I guess. But for right now, it's just take it one step at a time, one day at a time, and see where it goes. Just be better than I was yesterday.
Yep. Yeah,
keep leveling up.
I've had my um, dabble in marijuana, and it was enough to scare me from. It was enough to scare me from ever even. I don't even want to try it anymore. And it was a long, long time ago. I mean, it was. Oh my God.
I don't think it was just marijuana that he was smoking,
No,
if
no,
I'm
no, no.
quite
It wasn't.
honest.
It was laced. It was laced with something. Yes, yes. It was definitely laced with something that it jacked me up for 3 days. I was high for 3 days. Let's put
Yeah,
it that
Yeah,
that's
that
way.
wasn't
yeah,
just
that's
heroin.
fine.
Yeah, I was. There's no
They gave him the smoky
serious
joint.
feeling. Yeah, they had it laced with something. I don't know what it was, because I know I went to bed high, woke up high, went to bed high, woke up high. And that fourth day, I finally woke up and I looked around like, I'm not high anymore. said, God, thank you. I'm never smoking it again. I'm leaving it alone. And it was, and this was way, oh my God, it was back in the 80s, like mid 80s. And I don't think I've ever hit a joint since. Just, nope. And plus, I don't like how I feel when I feel like
Anxious?
you know what? The best description of it was, remember the movie Get Out?
Yeah, in the sunken place.
When yes, that's how I felt. Look it up. I can't. I'm paranoid. Did I just say that? No. Uh-uh. I want to be in control. And alcohol is a different feeling too for me. I mean, the last time I even got wasted, 86 was the last time I got just shit faced. I'm sorry, bleep that out. That I got crap faced, and it was very, um, it was a very sad situation because the next day I was supposed to go to this young lady I was dating. I was supposed to go to her dad's funeral, and I was too hungover to go, and I
Mm.
felt so bad about it. I'm like, I think just certain things in my life happen that it hits me so hard it makes me not want to do it again
Mm.
because I let her down. You know, her dad died, and I was supposed to go to the funeral, and I couldn't make it because I was hungover, and I felt so bad that I basically told her the next day, later on that day, why I couldn't come over to the house. I couldn't even go to the house the day of the funeral to give my condolences because I was so hungover, and I just felt so bad because of that. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to drink to that level again. Not going to do it. So just those things that they just really, it was like a gut punch, and it hurt a lot. It hurt me to do it to someone else and to myself. I was very disappointed in myself. So I was like, nope, they do it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I had one of those kind of moments. Again, I was 13 years old. I'm telling y'all that. So I was 13 years old, and I still remember it clear as day. Because it's what do they call them? Core memories. Like those memories
Defining
that.
moments. Yes.
Hmm. It was a core memory for me. I had gotten home from school, and I walked. I was living with my mom. It was a small house, like how many bedrooms do we have? It's a small 3-bedroom home, um, in um, a poor part of town of where we lived. And I walked in my bedroom, and in there was one of my buddy's older brothers. He was cutting up a line of cocaine on my TV.
Oh,
I had Yeah, I had this. It was this
whoa.
huge old TV, the projection tube or whatever those things are called.
Hmm.
But yeah, and it was all wood. It was encased in wood, and he was sitting there cutting up cocaine, and I'd never tried it. It was the first like meeting him and his brother, and just I was like into that first experience of where I first smoked pot, and I was like starting to develop mature physically. My shoulders were starting to get capped. Girls were starting to notice me a little more. Um, just like all this stuff was happening. And I was just taking it in and loving it because I'd never experienced anything like that. But when he was cutting that up, and I was also noticing my mom's usage, and her drug usage. And for some reason, I knew in that moment that this was a defining moment for me. That
Hmm.
if I took that line, that yeah, I was going to have fun and be great, but that would be a changing point in my life. I don't know how I had the awareness to know that, but I did. 13 years old, I knew in that moment. So I told him no. And I turned around and
Mm.
walked out the room, and I think I grabbed a 40 and started drinking some of the 40. I know it's not much better, but I
Oh, no, it's
knew
a
that
lot better. It's a lot better.
yeah, yeah, and I knew that at that moment that even 40 I had in my hand was only temporary. I've never had that where I had to drink or I had to do this or that. So that was kind of my story in knowing that I wasn't going to be an addict, or I didn't have that I wasn't going to be doing drugs and stuff like that. I would have fun and dabble and do stuff, but I never wanted to go down that rabbit hole that my mom was in and that all these people around me were in. So
Mm. Yeah, I didn't know till after I got become more of an adult. Cause I never saw Daddy drink. I never saw him take a drink. And I used to ask him, "Why don't you drink?" Whatever. He's like, I just don't. And he would smoke cigarettes, and I told dude this story before. He used to light up a cigarette, and I would take it out and put it out, and I would look at him like, "What? What you gonna say?" And then the first time I did it, he got mad at me. And then I told him, "I want you around. I don't want you smoking. I want you to live longer. Because if you smoking, you're not gonna live long." So from that point on, whenever he would light up a cigarette, I would just take it out of his mouth and put it out. And I would look at him like, "What?" And he would just smile. He was like, "Okay, I know why you did it." And so, but as I got older, and now our brother Dennis, like I said, he's 13 years older than me. He's told me stories about daddy and mama growing up, how they used to have drinking parties and house parties. I never knew any of that. He was a heavy drinker. All the Dawson boys were and girls from Aunt Christine up to Uncle Lee, who was the oldest. They were all extremely heavy drinkers. They used to have house parties every Friday and Saturday nights, just drinking like crazy.
That explains
And
a
so
lot.
I grew up thinking he never drank. So I chose not to drink. But there was times when I did choose to drink. I'm like, man, I can handle my liquor. I'm like, because I was in college. Fred's sister Regina, we were drinking grain alcohol mixed with Kool-Aid. We had a gallon thing of a gallon pitcher, and we had this much Kool-Aid, and the rest was grain alcohol. And we playing quarters, and I felt as if I drank so much that I drank myself sober. It felt that way, even though it may not have been that way. It felt that way because I had took just tons and tons. Because if you want to come in after we start, you got to take a shot to come in. If you want to get out, you got to take a shot to get out. So, but I had been there. We an hour and a half. We were playing, and when I walked home, I walked back to my dorm. Felt sober. Drank so much, I felt sober. And but I didn't know that he used to drink, and Mama used to drink. But my mom, your grandmother, she used to hide stuff around the house all the time. I remember those, like you said, defining moments. I remember finding alcohol all over the house, in the laundry bin, under the sink, in the kitchen cabinets, in the bathroom, linen closet, finding little bottles of Hennessy or rum or whatever it was. And I used to take it and throw it away. And she would get mad. And so, but I just never chose to drink. The weed thing was, I just didn't want to do it. I tried it once, and someone wanted me to try mushrooms when I was in Job Corps. And they brought it to me, and I looked at them like, something just told me, no, don't do it. You go down this rabbit hole, it's not going to end well. And I was like, I really want to try it because I was like, yeah, I want to try it. I've heard all such. I said, nope, I can't do it. Something told me not to do it.
That would have
And
been
I
interesting
never
if you
tried it.
did.
Yeah.
I wonder
Well, a lot
how
of things would be
different you
interesting.
would be.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of things that'd be different if I would have chose a different path. If I would have
Well,
played football my
I
junior
probably
year.
wouldn't have been here if you took them.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. Yeah, I have no clue where I would have been even if I would have. I think back on my high school years. If I would have played football my junior year, my life would have been totally different because all the people that I played football with, my senior year went on to play college football at a major university, and I didn't get letters because I didn't play my junior year. So, and I was better than the seniors my senior year. So, um, things would have been a lot different if I would have made that choice. But I did what my daddy told me not to do. Told me to leave them girls alone. So them girls are gonna always be there. I listened to it. I learned a
Hmm.
lot from him from when he told me not to do something, and I did it anyway.
That's just part of being young.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Oh,
some of them I can look back on and laugh, but yeah.
yeah. I was gonna say because you started this, Dewey, with asking one good thing that happened this week. Um, it's kind of trivial, but my son called me his hero this week.
Oh,
Um,
Hmm.
that's
there,
important.
Yeah, it was cool. We were just sitting there on the couch watching TV. My 3-year-old Dawson.
Mm,
Um, and he just turns and looks at me and says, "Dad, you're my hero. You're my best
mm,
friend." Oh, man, that hit hard. That hit real hard. Like I took about everything I had to keep it together. So that might be the month. That might be so far this year or so far
I would say that.
2023. Yeah, man, that
Yes.
was
Yes.
yeah, that was so cool. And then, dealing with what I'm dealing with my older one, 16,
Hmm.
who's too
Hmm.
cool for dad, doesn't want anything to do with dad. And then my younger son, who's kind of a spitting image of a younger version of him. See, I
Yeah.
I really needed that. I didn't realize how much you need that. So yeah,
Oh yeah.
that was the best thing for me so far.
Yep.
How about you, Patrick? You got something?
Well, I'm going on a cruise,
Oh,
and we're leaving Tuesday. So I'm hyped about it. I'm hyped, but I'm nervous.
what are
Not
you
for
nervous
me.
about?
I'm
Oh,
nervous for her, not for me.
'Cause she's like a travel.
She's claustrophobic. Yeah, we drive
oh,
everywhere, but we're
oh,
getting on a
shit.
boat, and she has no control of that boat. And so we have a room that has a window. We're on the top, like we're on the seventh floor or whatever. So we have a balcony and stuff like that. But I'm more nervous about her being on there, and because I've flown with her before, and she's only flown like 2 times in 26 years, and I was with her one of those times, and it wasn't a pleasant flight for me or for her. So I'm nervous about this, but it's a short cruise. It's a 4 night cruise, so we can do it for 4 nights, and if we like it, we'll do more. But
Yeah.
really excited about it.
I better be
So
invited
that's
to the next one. I've always wanted to go on a cruise.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, we might we were thinking about doing one maybe in Christmas of this year. So when I get some information, I'll let you know. I would love to do a family cruise.
Oh, that'd be cool. I'd be
I
down.
would love to do a family cruise because we will always
Yeah.
have because the women would always have something to do, and the guy we can get together and go do stuff, and yeah, yeah. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and my last day of work was Thursday, and I was telling somebody I said it was like I was so hyped the whole day. I was just bouncing off the wall. Thank God I only worked 6 hours that night because I couldn't work the whole night. I would have been exhausted the next morning. But it reminded me of when uh, my kids were younger, and when I was separated from their mom, and I would have them for 6 days, and then they would go back. But the day before I would get them, I was just bouncing off the walls. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get my kids tomorrow. I was just wound up so tight. And because when I had them, I didn't work at all for the 6 days, and when they start going to daycare, then I start picking up a little job where I go in when I drop them off and pick them up before, I would get off before they get out of daycare. But before that, because Dewey, you were, what, 16 months? 16 months when I divorced your mother or separated, and Jada was 5. And Jada was going to daycare, but Dewey wasn't. So I stayed home with him. So the days that I had him, I stayed home. The days that I didn't have my work. And I was always excited and hyped about picking up my kids. And so when you said about your son Dawson, I know what that means. I know how that feels.
Mm,
Uh, and for me, the best part of being an adult, being a dad, is teaching my kids, teaching them what or correcting what my parents tried to teach me, and trying to teach them the correct way. I don't want to ever teach my kids to dislike a race of people because I can't teach my son to hate white people because he's half white. I can't
Mostly
do that.
white.
Okay, whatever. But I
DNA
can't
test.
teach him. I can't teach him to do that because then I'm teaching him to hate himself. And and in a bigger scope, I can't teach my children to hate any particular race because we all are created in God's image. So just in that itself, I want my son to to love everyone and give everybody the benefit of the doubt, just like I try to. Uh, but it's so important, what your kids think of you. And I've always told Jada and Dewey, hey, tell me how I did as a parent. And they both have told me. They both have, we had that come to Jesus talk. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because I did that with my parents. I did it with my mother. I did it with daddy. I had a come to Jesus talk with them and had tell them how I felt about how I was raised and what they did right and what they did wrong and what I learned and what I didn't learn. But I think to fully be who you want to be as a man, you gotta look at both your parents and see what characteristics you have of them and choose which ones you want to take the best part of them. And then you're gonna have your own faults for sure because of where you came from. Because I know my mom wasn't perfect, my dad wasn't perfect. Not even the least bit. But I want to take the best parts of them and become the best person I can be.
That's good stuff.
Well, I gotta head out of here because I gotta stream in
Okay.
Yeah,
15 minutes.
Okay.
But I
Okay.
I
think we
think that was a
should.
great first episode.
I think we could
Yeah.
ask a question to like the audience on
Okay.
like what their first job was, what their experience was, like how that affected them, or if they've had like any experiences with substances or I don't know, just how they're doing.
Yeah, I'd love
Yeah.
to hear that.